It's 11:46 p.m. Today I'm looking at a very special camera. This camera was symbolic to the Canon world as it kind of paved the way for many of its predecessors. This camera also featured many things that were very, very top-notch that I wish they were still on Canon cameras today. The camera I'm talking about is the Canon EOS 300D. If you don't know what this camera is, it is a Canon DSLR from the year 2003. The early 00s, the twin zeros, the time that I grew up. Stuff I remembered people having this instead of the film cameras that came before it. Even my own camera was a point and shoot when I was little. Okay. This camera was known as the Canon EOS 300D to the world, or in our country, which is the United States, the Digital Rebel, and it changed the game. This was the coolest thing back in 2002, 2003. It was introduced back in August 20th of 2003. So mind you, I did say 2002. That could have been the rest of the world, but I just remember it as 2002, 2003. It's still in the early 00s, but I mean, this is symbolic to even my own early times as a youth child. And mind you, I'm only 21 at this point of the video. The camera here was basically targeted towards the amateur market. Somebody who would purchase like a T3i of today or even a T7i from say Target or some of the other big box retailers. So this was just your average family point and shoot that you would see for candid photos that you grew up to. And that's nothing wrong with it. Many people learn to shoot with it. Going back to 2003, the original person I got this camera from, and we'll do an overview about this later, the original person I got this camera from bought it with a lens for like $1,000 back then, and I still have the receipt for it. That's awesome. It's expensive. I mean, imagine $1,000 in early 2000s times, but mind you, everyone was driving SUVs that I can remember up until like 2008 when the recession hit. Now, the camera itself, I think was like its own cost, so it'd be about $700 to $800 or even $900 for the body alone, and that's without the lens. But you add the lens, which is usually a 50mm 1.8, those costed a $1,500 or between like $1,200 and $1,500 brand new. And I mean, I don't know how accurate that is, that I'm going only solely off that receipt that I have from the original person that I got the camera from. One of the very first, if not the first SLR, well, DSLR, that allowed you to buy, like Canon allowed you to buy it, obviously, for under $1,000. So it was affordable. It was affordable for the people to use. We're gonna do a brief overview of the camera and show you some of its quirks, features, and awesomeness that it has. And yeah, it's a quirky camera because it is a starter camera that many people love to use. And there's some really neat niche type of things that are cool about it. So let's get to it. Oh, can't forget you too. So here's the camera, the Canon EOS Rebel. Oh yeah. Okay, so what the body is made of a polycarbonate base, and it's just polycarbonate plastic, nothing to it. The camera also features a red dot and a white dot. Now, this is mainly on crop sensor cameras, and for people who have both full frame and crop sensor cameras, it allows you to use full frame lenses on crop sensor cameras, but it doesn't go the other way around. You can't have a full frame camera, say the 1DX Mark II or a 50D, you can't use crop sensor lenses with those cameras. So this was pretty innovative for that. I mean, you were able to use both lenses. It also has this metal band ring. You put the lens on, you're not scratching up the polycarbonate back base. This camera also has a built-in pop-up auto flash, which comes up if your subject is too dark or the room you're lighting is too dark. Now back here, this is your sensor. Like many other DSLRs, the sensor is right there, as well as the zoom motor and all the little connections for the lens. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way. Attaching a lens to this camera is actually really simple. This is a lens off of a basic lens that came off of a film SLR, and the film SLR that it came off of was the Canon Rebel X. Now I'm just going to take this, twist it on, and the lens is installed. Simple, easy, quick. Let's go to the top. On the top of the camera, it resembles many of the modern amenities that we have today. It's got the little dial with fully automatic, portrait, AV, TV, all that stuff. And I'm not going to go into detail what all this means. If you want to know what AV, TV is, aperture priority, yeah, all that stuff. You also have multiple frame shooting, which is nice. The dial on the front here is so when you want to switch your shutter speed, you also have your shutter release button here, and that's pretty much it. Your hot shoe for your flash. This gets interesting, and I love this about this camera. Let me flip this screen around. There we go. Okay. Trust me, you're gonna think this is awesome. I really wish the camera still had this feature. I wish they still had that quartz display to kind of show you exactly what your shutter speed, how many images you have, and then all the settings that you have. You have your AV mode, you have backlit, you have your ISO, your white balance, compact flash card, trash, play, jump, info, and menu. Now I'm going to turn the camera on and show you that quartz display. Now I'm going to move to the bottom of this and turn on that quartz display. We have the battery door open. I'm going to slide in that massive battery, and then the camera turns on. You see how it says EOS on it? Oh, there's that pop-up flash right there. Oh, there we go. Shows you your picture. So advanced. And then if I want to turn the white balance down or zoom in or change any of the settings, wow. Oh my goodness, you can see everything. You can see the info for the image. You can go through the settings here. So high tech. Not like this one here where it does have the same basic features that you have up here, but it's all on the digital screen. It doesn't help me when I take pictures and the screen's facing inward where I cannot for the life of me see what I'm looking at. I've ever had a mirrorless camera. Most of those are pretty awesome, but I mean for 2003 technology, this was the on the bottom of the camera here, we have the battery door where the battery came out of, and then it says DC 8.1 volts, the model number, which is DS6041, and then my model number, or sorry, not model number, but my serial number, which is 0760229014. So if you have this camera, give me a shout out. Coming to the side here, we have a compact flash card slot. If you don't know what compact flash card is, it's an insanely large card that are still being used in professional cameras. They just slide in and boom, turn the camera on, which I got to put the battery in for. Give it a sec. It tells me I have exactly 7 shots. 7. That's not a lot of shots with this camera. Okay. On this side, we have a remote shutter release, a video out, and a digital, which is just a typical USB. Much the basic overview of this camera, and I'll show you some attached photos that I took with this camera over the years. Hopefully this kind of gave you a reference point on the Canon Rebel or Canon 300D, and I am happy to say that this camera has survived the 2000s pretty well, and it will hopefully survive the next couple of years, whoever the next person who owns it is next. I know this camera has lasted the test of time. It was built with quality and it still holds true today. The camera works splendid. You're still able to get batteries for it and it's so awesome. Unfortunately, is it still useful in today's terms? I would say it's only good because it gives you kind of this muted, kind of fuzzy muted picture. Mind you, the camera is older, so it will give you this nice muted image. It's not super sharp anymore because of the way that it is. The sensor isn't up to today's standards, and we have greatly improved since then. And there's no problem with it. It's just I love the images. I love the white balance. It does max out though. On a bright sunny day, you'll get washed out images. What can I say that about DSLRs? I know I can say that about film. I'm an active film shooter. I do film, not that. Okay. What I would replace it with was the T3i, and the T3i has given me more options, more ability to shoot, and it gives me the ability to shoot video and to an SD card instead of a CF card. And because CF cards are kind of up and down, so it's kind of a gamble, I would say. It's still useful. It's a great camera to shoot with. I hope this video kind of gave you a brief rundown of the camera and what it has to show, as well as how cool it really is, and a brief history. As normal, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out my channel content for more, as I do a lot with cars and cameras, as well as many other things. More of just a DIY guy. Alright, if you have any comments, leave them below. And hopefully we can return to this so-called normal that we live in.